Welcome back to another fantastic episode of I'm Gonna Talk and You're Gonna Listen. I promised y'all I would get off the whole Elon Musk OPM thing, at least until the shutdown. So if you're here for that, I'll do like a 10-second, 30-second synopsis, and then those of you that are here for that can go fly a kite, and the rest of you who just like to hear about prepping shit it's the fan type stuff can stick around. So hooray. Um, so really really quick on the Musk OPM stuff. He once again sent a troll post last night mocking Federal for not wanting to do the five things that they did last week thing again. And it's I don't know why he's still milking that as uh meme fodder. I don't even know why he even gives a shit about that anymore. Why he thinks it's so fucking funny. And it's honestly, it's like, you know how like Kim Kardashian must have felt every time like Kanye did something dumb, or like his new wife that left him after he paraded her around naked at that thing for no reason. And then chaos ensued after that, and he relapsed. And I feel I feel that way about Elon Musk. I feel like he's like shit the bed, and nobody wants to tell him that he's covered in shit. Um, it's just embarrassing at this point for him for him to still be making fun of Federal for not wanting to do, say, their five things that they did last week. This is either the third or fourth week of it. Not only is it not funny anymore, nor was it ever funny to begin with. Uh, if you read Fed News, nobody's been complaining about it for like a week or two. In fact, I think if you read Fed News, all they're like is like, "Do we still need to do this?" Nobody said anything about it. Um, and like I said, a lot of this stuff is leaked, and so they were saying like none of them even got the email that they were supposed to respond to, and some of their agency heads are back to tell them to not do it again. So there isn't any federal people crying about the five. So for him, it was 9 or 10 o'clock at night. I don't know. Who the fuck knows what time zone his ass is in. So for him to just think that shit is like funny as fuck, like in the middle of the night, is just oxygen starved, like retardation bullshit. Um, but that's not what surprised me, or I guess unsurprising is within 30 seconds there were probably 1,000 blue checks that all relatively said the same thing, or they were crypto bots. So there were shit tons of crypto bots and shit tons of blue checks that all basically said, "LOL, they don't want to get held accountable. LOL, uh, they don't want people to know what they do, or LOL, they don't want to provide their value." There was hundreds of people, and they all said relatively the same kind of paraphrasing, none of which is accurate, because in the five things that the federal people have to post, it doesn't say what their job actually is. So these five things have no context, and they're completely irrelevant. So it doesn't tell anyone what they do. It has nothing to measure against to validate what they do. There's no way to prove that those are even the things that they are supposed to be doing. Um, the the United States citizens are hemorrhaging millions of dollars a week in aggregated time for all the federal people to post 5 things that have nothing to do with anything, aren't measured against anything. Nobody knows what they're going to use the data for. Um, Multiple levels. Nobody knows where it's going to be hosted. Nobody knows if it's going to be sold off to anybody. Um, it's completely 100% valueless information, and we are wasting millions as taxpayers on it every week. And Musk still third or fourth weekend, he still thinks that this is just the funniest thing in the fucking world, and still has hundreds of blue checks sucking him off within seconds. This is in the middle of the night. These are not real fucking people. These have got to be bots. Hundreds of bots. And I started like scrolling through and trying to find any that weren't bots. The ones that weren't bots messaged me back and more or less said, hey, yeah, I agree. And then the other ones are like, uh-oh, retard alert, something like that. It's like, you guys, anyway. So that's, and now they're all dogpiling on Massey, and Orange Man's dogpiling on Massey, and that's just a whole other thing. But whatever, anyway. That is part 1. Yay! Thank you to all my engagement buddies down in the comments last time. CDK, appreciate you. Jimmy, thanks again for the notes. And Birio and Scubio, thank you. Thank you, No Notification Gang and Notification Gang. All right. So where are we? We're the day of the vote of whether or not the government shuts down. I was going to do this video, well, whatever this is, podcast, a couple days ago, but I was thinking like I was going to do a prediction of what I thought was going to happen. Then I think maybe instead, like, I told some people instead of recording it down or something, which is dumb. I should have recorded it. So now it's going to seem like, well, of course you know what's going to happen now. It's basically happening now. But I had thought of this several days ago. Basically, the what is it? House and Senate, right? Is that how it works? The CR, the continuing resolution or whatever it's called, has gone through the House with, on the conservative side, Massey, I think the only person voting no on it, and then Orange Man lost his mind and was like, we need to primary Massey, and then all the MAGA tards were like, oh, Massey's against Orange Man. He's the enemy now, and then they're like, he hasn't been, pointed out some flaws with like, oh yeah, to be clear, I'm saying MAGA tards because there's kind of a I've explained this before, but if you're new, there's always been kind of like a rift, a MAGA rift between what I call the new MAGA and like the the people that have been MAGA like a little longer or a lot longer in some cases. There's a huge not a rift, but like a disparity in between people who understand. I would almost say like America first versus like make America great again. Um, a lot of people like eventually evolve past quote unquote MAGA, which usually just means orange man no matter what. And there's a lot of reasons they get called cultists, because to challenge orange man on anything gets you stoned to death in the public approval court, public court of courting. um, and then America First, which has been heavily grifted upon, is a lot easier to sort out like who's real and who's not. Like Vivek the clown Ramaswamy or Elon the Musk clown. Wait, they'll say America First, and then they'll want to do H-1Bs. Then they'll be like America First, and they want to replace everyone with AIs. And America First, but all their shit is still manufactured offshore. So, it's so that's kind of why I said that. But I want to step back. I realize this episode, because there's stuff I want to include from like the 2 or 3 times I've tried to re-record this episode, it is going to be a little disjointed. So if you're with me so far, then congratulations. Hopefully you made it past all the lumpy parts. So where are we? I was trying to kind of convey that the CR has passed the House with only Massey standing against it, and then Orange Man going up against Massey, even though Massey's right, and then everyone attacked Massey, or the MAGA-tards attacked Massey for being anti-Trump, and then a lot of the libertarians attacked the MAGAs for not being America First and not actually cutting everything they wanted. And Musk keep repeating over and over again that he wants to save a billion or no, a trillion. I want to save $1 trillion, in the next year. I want to save $1 trillion in the next year. He's been saying that for a long time now. And that was a pretty big key indicator that they've known all along that the spending wasn't going to change. And it's been super obvious. This whole thing has been telegraphed for months. And for either side, the lefty lose, or these MAGA cultists that are all trust the plan, instead of just holding Orange Man accountable, and all the Musk bots that won't just hold Musk accountable. Like, you start to see the problem, and people that say that Massey should be held accountable for some of the things that he's said too, because people try to say, well, the libertarians haven't done anything either. And it's like, well, to be clear, nobody has done anything. The left hasn't done anything. Conservatives haven't done anything. Nobody's done anything. I think people applaud like Massey and Rand Paul and a few others because at least they're saying what everybody's actually thinking, even if they're not doing anything. And that's always like how it starts, right? That's how the meme wars started. That's how the culture wars started. They all start with somebody at least coming out and saying it, and then starting to expose it, and then hopefully starting to do something about it. The problem is neither the left or right ever seem to be able to, or conservatives, people in the middle, nobody ever seems to get past the talking about it phase. The difference is the left has far left thugs to go and attack whoever they disagree with. Whereas there's no right wing death squads, even though if you read certain news outlets, they will be decrying this ultra violent far right that, if it does exist, certainly hasn't materialized. And a lot of the far left's antics tend to backfire on it because they're attacking Tesla owners right now who are all predominantly left leaning. So the far left is attacking left leaning Tesla owners who climate change, rah, 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 get in a Tesla. They're firebombing Tesla dealerships and stuff. They're attacking car dealerships. Again, that's always one of their favorite things. Like since at least 2016, car dealerships is always one of the big things they go after. And they're going to be just rampantly losing support. This is also exactly what the new FBI, like Kash Patel, this is exactly what he wants, in a manner of speaking, because this allows him to put the Ninja Clan back on his radar. And the left is really mad about this because they've weaponized the FBI for the last 10 years to go after, these right-wing death squads that don't exist, to steer them away from the left-wing death squads that are actively marching around all the time, the bought and paid for, George Soros, Ninja Clan, or BLM, or the Free Palestine, or just whatever nonsense of the week. Women are literally under attack, even though they support trans, and even though there's men and women's spaces left and right and up and down everywhere, but they say they protect women. They want everyone to free Palestine, but they don't have anywhere for the Palestinians to go. They want to push Israel out to the sea and are allowed to say that, but they don't say where they would rather Israel to be. They just want them exterminated, and they don't talk about Christians being exterminated in Syria, like in Africa. Like they don't have a plan. They just have these partisan calls to action instead of just defunding all of it. Just defund all of it and get out of all of it. And if we need to go get Christians out of somewhere, we don't go fight a war there. We just go get the Christians out. Like, there, we fixed the problem. We got the Christians out. Never mind, like, toppling Syria was a horrible idea. Just like when Lebanon got overthrown. I mean, every time, just like when Iraq got overthrown, like, every time that happens, predominantly conservative religions get wiped out, like, every time, and then all you're left with is these, like, ultra violent religions that are just hell-bent on convert or die. And you get thousands of Christians and Assyrians and the Kurds and just everybody just getting wiped out every time. But you don't hear him protesting about that stuff because that's not what they're paid to protest about. And I stand by, like, at the end of all of this all ends up with Christians getting wiped off the entire planet. And they don't talk about that. They just want to talk about, like, oh no, underwater trans paintings in Brazil are getting defunded or something. It's like, when I've been talking about this for years, like, They would walk around with their protest signs, and they would all be talking about like how bad Christo fascists are. Like this all trails back to them wanting to get rid of Christianity. And even though you certainly don't want a planet that is like hardline Christian either, because I'm sure it would somehow all swoop right back around to us all just being in a different colored burqa, because if you get conservative enough, they don't want women wearing bathing suits either. So I mean, it has to be somewhere, somewhere right of middle a little bit, but just to where it's stable. Whereas progressivism just slides off the left hand side all the time. Like that's all it does. It never stabilizes. So you have all these protests. All these left leaning protests are designed to just slide everything off the face of the earth. Whereas the other side is like, hey, could we just be left alone? And how do we get there? But instead, Orange Man still hasn't done anything for the Second Amendment. We still haven't seen the Epstein files. People are just getting trolled and psyoped and memed over and over and over again. But they'll be like, trust the plan, trust the plan. It's like, there is no plan. I want everybody to see that. Like, the real discussion that we need to be having is that in the House, the left all voted against the CR, and in the Senate, they're all going to vote for it. And they're taking massive hits on their own side right now because their own side the left has finally come to the conclusion that the government actually does need to be shut down. The only problem is they had no way of blaming Orange Man for it. The problem is that they never capitalized on the fact that they could have actually whittled this thing down, knowing that they had the left's balls in a vice. And so Schumer's going to take a big hit over this. And I always forget all their names. Whoever the Speaker of the House is going to be just fine. He's going to look like, I don't know why his name is skipping my brain real quick, but oh yeah, Mike Johnson. I don't know why I keep wanting to call him. I don't know, screw myself up. So yeah, Mike Johnson's all sitting pretty that he got it through the House, and now Chuck Schumer's stuck with trying to get it through the Senate. And they realize that they can't shut it down because they'll take a massive hit. And now they're realizing that this is exactly what this is exactly the trap they fell into. The problem is it's not really that big of a trap. I mean, the spending still stays the same. The only difference is the reduction in force stuff is supposedly in there. So that's why the left is like, well, you guys should have shut this down anyway, because if all these reductions in force go through, everything's going to get gutted anyway. The concern is that reduction in force could just take ages, but if there's enough language in the CR that say the rips have to happen pretty fast, then they may just have to rubber stamp it all. I'm not sure. So like this CR like could be okay ish. The problem is if there's any spending at all in here that's like fraudulent spending, then the conservatives have really lost a lot of ground, and the left is still going to secretly be patting itself on the back, going, haha, these idiots just approved tons of spending that they said was fraudulent, and it's going to backfire on conservatives. Like, they should have taken the time to strip out all the fraudulent funding, and I don't think they did. I truthfully don't think they did. And they're still being fought by local courts that are able to just shut everything down on a federal level. And I've never understood how those, like, what are they called, district courts? I've never understood how those district courts can, like, shut down federal. That's really weird. But I try to look at things from the other direction. Like, well, if we had, like, an absolutely tyrannical president, would you want that? And, like, I guess you would, but the problem is, like, it's never worked for us to get our rights back. Like, we don't have our Second Amendment rights, and so the Supreme, even if it goes up to the Supreme Court, even if they rule in our favor for, like, let's say, Second Amendment, it's going to flop back down and nothing's going to happen. So I think everybody on both sides is starting to realize there's a giant stalemate here, where conservatives are like, well, the district courts are just going to kick it all back anyway. And then the left is like, haha, it doesn't matter what the president does because the district courts are going to kick it all back anyway. And so, like, all of our elected representatives are basically pointless. It's at least as far as, like, executive orders are, like, or just even what the I don't know, the executive heads, like, if they decide to let probies go, does that mean, like, some district judge or whatever type of judge they are, I always forget, does that mean those judges can just, like, block, like, federal firing, like, federal terminations? That's just it gets into, like, really weird territory where probies are basically at will, and you're not supposed to be able to illegally fire them, but they're basically at will. The problem is going to be is, like, if they sneak into one of these CRs that everybody's at will in the federal government, then those protections are going to go bye-bye, and everybody's going to be able to get let go, and the district say, well, it's still illegal, and somebody's going to be like, how? And they're not going to know. And the reason why they're not going to know is because this has been going on the private side forever, at least 20, 25 years. I don't remember exactly when at will employment was put in, but, like, they literally can fire anybody for anything. And the probies are that way too. They could just say you're not working out. They don't even have to prove why. And so I think there's going to be an immediate injunction on getting them all back in. The amount of paperwork and time it would take to reinstate them all is insane. And then if it just got blocked again, you just wasted even more time trying to bring them back. And how are you going to do all those background checks and get them all their computers and get them all their badges back? It's not practical. And it's because these judges are just insanely out of touch with how the private side works, but they also seem to be insanely out of touch with how the public side works too. And I'll keep going back to what I've said before, which is there's going to be no incentive to work for federal ever again for anybody, unless they're going to, like, bump the pay by, like, 40%. As I've said before, despite what a lot of people think, federal doesn't make that much. All their pay scales are all public. You can compare that to, what the hell is the name of that website? Is it Glassdoor? I can't remember. But you can see what the private side is paying, and you can see what the public side is paying, and it's like 35 to 40% variance. So if stability isn't a reason to work for the government, it's going to have to be pay, which means the government is going to have to be on equal pay with the private side, which I don't think necessarily is a bad thing, but I think as a taxpayer, that's also going to be like a holy shit moment, because unless they're going to tariff the living shit out of the rest of the planet to pay for federal employees, and if you force them to take all the probies back, you haven't really like netted any savings. Like you'd have to shut down. They said, "Oh, we shut down half of the Department of Education." You have to shut down all of it. They've said they've shut down a certain amount of the IRS. You'd have to shut down all of it. Like you'd have to shut down half of the government, which everyone will, clap for. But like you'd have to just immediately use that money to pay the other half for retention. Like I still haven't really seen like a net add to all of this. Trust the plan, trust the plan. Like I still don't see one. Like the math ain't mathin'. And I don't know. They did say they want to shut down like 70% of the buildings, but if they're not going to bulldoze them, there's nobody to lease those buildings, and they're just going to have to release other buildings if they're not going to leave everybody at home. Um, this just, I guess it feels like I'm just repeating maybe the same thing every couple of days, but I keep expecting to see or hear some kind of plan, but instead, Musk is still shit posting in the middle of the night. They don't want to answer their 5 things. It's like, why are you still trolling? Why haven't you moved on? This is the script from a month ago. Why does it seem like things aren't progressing? People say, give it time, give it time. Like, well, okay, but time keeps progressing and nothing's happening. And it's the same thing with the CRs. Oh, just let the CR pass, they'll fix it next time. They've said that like the last 6 CRs, and nothing's happened. They keep raising the debt ceiling, and they keep borrowing more money, and our deficit keeps going up. Now the thing is, like, yes, we do need more money for defense. We do need more money for the border. We do need more money for ICE. We do need more money to modernize our soldiers so we can get more yummy, yummy, yummy meal syrup. Like, we do need to be a world superpower, but without being the world police. And I think how we do that is we get all the Christians out of wherever they're being exterminated, and we give them a path to citizenship here, and then we completely expunge all of the illegals we have here and go back to making America first, right? Like bringing a couple thousand Christians in that are at the risk of being completely exterminated off the planet, building them a church somewhere and giving them something to do is like a far cry from the 30 to 50 million illegals here that are at best doing migrant work, if not H-1B shit on illegal visas. And then they catch them, and then there's no consequences for the places that you would know the names of that are employing illegals. Which guess what they are? They're corporations. This whole corptocracy is hiring illegals. They're not hiring you or me. They're hiring illegals. And all that money goes right back to their own countries again. And they still haven't taxed that. They haven't taxed the money that they're earning here and just flat out leaving the country. And sure, they could do it with crypto, but that's not going to happen. They're not going to learn how to do crypto to send money around. They're just going to PayPal it or use Instagram, MoneyGram. They're not going to tax that shit. Like, they should, though. Um, if their countries are so awesome, why don't they go work in those countries? Why are they here? And like, well, nobody's gonna do these jobs. But like, A, that's not true. B, we've got a giant homeless population that we could easily put to work and get them off the streets and get them to stop using drugs. They don't want to work. They want to just use drugs until they die. Like, there needs to be rehab programs where it's like, you cannot be on the street, period. You must work to rehab and pay back your debt to society. Because all of those people by now, with how much money they've mooched and stolen from everybody and mooched and stolen off the government and federal and city, like, they owe a massive debt to society, and they should be paying it back, or they just need to go swim out in the ocean and not come back again. But the fact that, you know, you Narcan them and then they just immediately take another hit of fentanyl just tells you all that you should need to know. There's no fixing that. Oh, well, I just hope they get the help they need. They don't want help. Go ask them. They do not want help. They want to be high forever until they die. That is not a sustainable society. Those people could get cleaned up and be put to work until they get their shit together. You know, I don't know how that's any different from the indentured servitude of tens of millions of illegals coming over, either through expired H-1Bs or just smuggling across the border. All the trafficking and all the drug mules and stuff. It's just like, and ICE just isn't working fast enough. I don't know what's going on there. So like, ICE is going to need more money and more resources, and the military to fight the cartels is going to need lots of, you know, A-10 warthogs and stuff. Oh, that falcon's back to flying up and down there, whatever that bird is, flying up and down the road looking for things. That's cool. It's I see potentially a path through here, but I don't see anybody but the far left radical extremists with an actual contingency if things don't go their way. They're constantly with their violence pushing everything further left. And if anybody center or center right even says something, they're called, you know, right wing death squads and Christian extremists and stuff. Even in the UK, Christians have started protesting, and they just immediately get verbally accosted in the streets, like no matter what time of day or night. Meanwhile, tens of millions of sand people are running around protesting with total impunity again. Tommy Robinson's still in jail for stating the obvious. And we still, in the U.S., we still have political prisoners too. Vickers is still in jail. Several other, we still have many political prisoners whose felonies never got cleared, even though they're fake felonies. Rich White of American Guns and FPS Russia, like Chris, dang it, I can't remember his name now. But like, we still have political prisoners like crazy. This was moving fast for just a little while, but now we're stuck. We're immediately stuck in this bog. And very, 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 very soon, we are going to be in all-out mob wars again. And shoot, there was one more thing I wanted to say. Was it about ICE? I can't remember now, but we're slipping right off the edge. Meanwhile, people are like, oh, we don't want Doge to have access to the IRS because they'd have private information. It's like, the Patriot Act already, like, all of our info, everybody's info about everything is leaked. right? There's cameras and phone and everything. It all goes into databases. It's all churned through by very complicated computer systems. Everybody's on many lists. Okay, by now, if you've read certain books, you're already on a list. If you've even like Google searched certain words, you're already on lists. Like everybody's shit is going into AIs, and goodness only knows where it's going and getting churned and getting bought and sold. So like, if they have access to all this info and nothing's being done, they have access to all the Epstein info, and nothing's getting done. Like they're going to target whoever they want to target for whatever they want to target them for. That's just how it is. Like the cat's out of the bag with phones. The cat's out of the bag with the Patriot Act and AI and everything. The only way anything is going to get done is if people hold the powers that be accountable for doing what they say, which is for Musk to stop memeing. Oh, we're exposing more fraud. It's like you're exposing it and nothing's being done. You're exposing it and the CR passed anyway. Like, expose it and do something about it. Instead, what happens is the left-wing violent mob gets whatever it wants. And if anybody does anything about it, everybody comes out and like, why are conservatives protecting their towns and protecting their cities from these people peacefully protesting? It's like, man, there's thousands of them. And sure, they don't have unified signs anymore, but if you speak out about them, they either attack your house or they swat you. People have been getting swatted left and right all week, and they wonder why people keep their identities a secret. And they have been attacking Tesla dealerships and Tesla cars left and right. Like the violent leftists always get what they want, and nobody ever holds them to account. And that's why you got to be able to pull back and take care of yourselves and stay the hell out of the cities, because this is all still about banks and taxes and keeping the cities afloat until the last possible second. But the cracks are really starting to show as to where that money is supposed to be coming from. And the job reports aren't looking good, which means, they're ready to press that button and go, look, Orange Man tanked the economy, even though the job numbers have been fake. They've been waiting to press this button, and they're about to press all the buttons. They've been planning this for a long time. And they're still trying to make guns illegal. And you gotta figure out where your line in the sand is, because these people, your elected representatives, are all bought and paid for. They're all APAC. They're all under the same umbrella. They all the left and the right, the uniparty, the corptocracy, like they all have the same donors. They all have the same lobbyists. Like they all go in a room and decide all of this. That's why neither side is making any inroads. That's why the CR has no bite to it, and that's why the Chuck Schumer is just letting it go through. They don't want everything to shut down. They just want their money. Just like I said, they want their money to keep flowing. That's what they want. So this is the end of part one. I know it's kind of disjointed. I think I got all my thoughts out. And I'm sure the CR will be finalized anytime now. And then I don't think I'll have much more to say on this because I think it's going to be status quo for however long the CR gets approved for. I don't know if it's going to be 3 months or a year, but we're just going to fall into a status quo. And then I think the protests are going to get worse and worse. So this will be the last time I think I talk about any of this. So we'll start part 2 here in a bit and talk about going back to what we used to talk about, which is prepping stuff. All right, test. This looks okay. This is part 2 or part 4 or something. I'm outside. It's about 40 degrees out. It doesn't feel like it though. I don't think this thing picks up the AC or that HVAC or whatever it's called. I was hoping it wasn't going to be going, but we'll see. I'm excited to be recording out here again as soon as the weather changes. I realized I like recording out here way more. It's way more quiet and peaceful. As long as the HVAC isn't going, but man, with it being like 40 degrees out, it's hard to not have just an insane electricity bill. So it's me and the neighbor's horse, who, by the looks of it, has been rolling. There we go. Has been rolling around in the mud. Because her whole hind end looks like it's mud colored. Oh, the HVAC is making a weird rattly noise. Is that gonna wait? No. That is the. I don't understand how. Is this? There we go. That's weird. I think the between everything, all the big machinery that goes by here kind of rattles everything in the wind, and it's kind of nuts. It's also kind of funny how much the horse lays down. She likes to lay down. There isn't even any sun out right now, and she's still laying down in the mud. Like a muddy mud horse. So I was like, is the horse hurt? No, the horse is just laying in the mud. Being a muddy mud horse. So yeah, part 2 or part 4 or whatever part this is. This is good too. My eyes get more sunlight from the sunny side of the house. Anyway, drones have come way down in price, and a lot of people have been asking me like what kind of drone to get. You know, there's a lot of discussion between like what's more important, drones or thermals or 3D printers. You know, thermals meaning like nods and stuff, or like a modern rifle. And it would be fun. It would be fun to have a panel discussion, but I have like a sneaky feeling like modern rifle, modern pistol is always going to be like number one, and you got to get some training and you got to get medical. But if you had to choose between like a 3D printer and, you know, provided you already have like the food preps that you need for you and your animals, and provided you already have like medical. Oh yeah, she is completely laid down. She's like, the horse is fully sideways. What a ham. She just lays, the horse just lays down like a dog, or a cat, or a deer, or something. It's absolutely hilarious. Anyway, I would say kind of like the three things that you have to struggle to make a choice with is there's like super affordable radios, but like, what if you wanted to step it up to a digital radio? Now, for a decent digital radio, you're talking about like 130-ish, just like for entry, or even like a decent ham radio. Not like a Baofeng, but like an actually decent one. You know, you're talking $130. You know, trying not to get one that's all gated off. Obviously, because then you bought effectively a brick. That's really frustrating. Maybe with the FCC, maybe some of that'll get deregulated. One could only hope. I wanted to have a whole radio discussion, but I haven't made my mind up yet. I feel like I'm talking to a sleeping horse right now. Oh well, I know she can hear me. Though she's like way the hell out there. She can. Anyway. I think that if I had to choose between like $130 radio, if I already had some Baofengs and like a 3D printer and a drone, I almost think I would get the drone first. Here's where I'm kind of torn on this though, and here's why I think a higher end radio versus a lower end drone versus like or an entry level drone versus like an entry level 3D printer is kind of an interesting conversation, because for everybody that says, oh, they make fun of sad hams and go, you don't need your license, a huge part of radios is networking, and you got to have your ham license if you're going to start networking. And there is no clearer photograph, clearer picture of that than with digital radios. Digital radios have a massive learning curve. And what all three of these have in common, they have two things in common. They have learning curves in common, and they have that there's a lot of like one-time setup stuff where you need the internet to work. If you have your DJI drone in your packaging and you're waiting for shit hits the fan to open your DJI drone, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. That thing's going to be a brick because you can't authenticate it to these servers in China. And yeah, you don't need a flight ID, and you don't need the FCC for it. But every single drone pretty much has to go back to China to talk to China servers. Every single, almost if not every 3D printer has to go back to China to talk to the servers. And a lot of the modern radios have to go back to China or somewhere to talk to the servers. My Yaesu, I've told you guys this before, my Yaesu is not, oh, there's the hummingbird. My Yaesu is not, if you get a Yaesu out of the box, yep, she is rolling around in the mud. She's turning into a giant mud puddle horse. If you think you're just going to open your Yaesu out of the box and start using it, you might be able to program a few channels. But and you might have your handbook, and you might be able to, or your old repeater book, and sit there and program channels till the end of time. But why would you do that when you could just set your Yaesu up now, go find the instructions to make sure it's unlocked, and then just set up, your 1,000 channels now. I think a lot of people like Baofangs because they don't need to go talk to China. But if you don't set up your Baofang now, you're still reliant on somebody else having the settings and a laptop and a cord. Like you're heavily reliant on other people setting up your programming for you. Same thing with the Yaesus, same thing with the TYTs. Like if you're running around with a Yaesu, you're hoping that somebody else has already connected to the internet, has already, make sure their software cable works because it's proprietary in some cases. Make sure the software works, it's proprietary in some cases. Every single one is unique. Like every cable has its own chip. This you have to find somebody else. If you tried to get into this after the grid's down, you have to try to find somebody with the exact cable and the exact software that you need. And until somebody has found a way to hack DJI to fake the authentication servers and completely root DJI drones, to be clear, I actually think there is a way to do it because I think that's what they've been doing in Ukraine. But I don't know how wide that information is really spread. And I guarantee you, if you're just futzing around watching sports all day, you haven't done enough due diligence to go find how to root your DJI drone. Unless you've been spending time in Ukraine and you're in one of the very few drone teams that know how to do that. Maybe it's been leaked, but I don't know. Same thing with a 3D printer. If you haven't done your research to get exactly the right 3D printer that doesn't have to go talk to China, then or you're going to have to figure out how to root it, and they just added more security to those things to try to prevent people from rooting them and using them for with their own protocols and stuff. You're just gonna have all this equipment that you can't use, and relying on Baofangs long term isn't a good strategy because those things are garbage. They're meant to be disposable, which is kind of a bummer because they're going to have your programming on them, but you're going to have to change your programming and your comms plans all the time anyway. People having your frequencies isn't the end of the world because there's scanners that can find your frequencies in just a couple seconds, and so unless you have some kind of frequency skipping, you have to have a pretty damn complicated comms plan and pretty damn complicated radios if you're going to frequency skip around, where basically every radio is skipping frequencies at the same time and keeping your messages really short and sending each part of your message on a different frequency over and over again, or switching to just full digital. And then if everybody's got different digital radios, it could take months to try to get all the radios to talk to each other. And there's also multiple software for each type of radio, and some of them take more generic programming, and some of them take pretty specific proprietary programming. It seems like BTECs can take a little bit more of a generic programming, or TYTs take pretty specific programming, and they're also very heavily version based. And that's if you don't get scammed by some Chinese eBayers. And if you think you're gonna if you think these radios are intuitive, you got another thing coming. Switching between two different Baofangs is hard enough. But my Yaesu and my TYT are kind of the same. But the Anytone is kind of similar to Baofang. There goes the HVAC again, dang it. All right, part 5? Question mark. So that kind of covers radios. It's so bright out here. I gotta get my eyes used to the sunlight again. Well, it's not really the sun. It's like overcast. Anyway, the wind has kicked up a little bit. It's still really, really cold out here. Neighbor's horse is doing her action pose. So I kind of covered radios, 3D printers. You might ask yourself, if I already have kind of an El Cheapo radio and I really don't care about, you can actually get like UV5 RMs or whatever they're called now, which is like an upgraded UV5R Baofeng radio. The newer ones for only a couple dollars or more can have like 1,000 channels. You might, why do you need that? Well, because if you have all the FRS, GMRS, and mirrors and commercial stuff loaded in, to listen to, obviously FCC if you're listening. Certainly not to broadcast on, ever. Check your local laws and stuff. Check your local, make sure you're not messing with anybody that's, commercially reserved those bands. Anyway, making sure you're not, messing up all the emergency channels and stuff. Let's say you've spent a couple extra bucks and you already have, a radio that, gosh darn it, are you kidding me? No! It's so cold, the friggin' HVAC just keeps turning on. I don't think this thing picks it up too much. It's like it catches like a very low pass of it. I'll just try to keep talking. So you spend a couple bucks, you've got a radio with 1,000 channels, which means you can load in all your local repeaters. Again, if you don't have your ham license, just to listen. Because once anything happens, people get on those repeaters and start telling everybody what's going on, because that's just how their brains work. So you don't want to go to like a higher quality radio, and you're like, but I want to get more prepared. Okay, then your two options are, because thermals, a decent pair of thermals is still like several $1,000s. Digital thermals are doing way better, and you can get a set of digital thermals for just a few $100. But the latency's not quite there, and the battery life's not quite there. You're talking like, 8 AA's for a pair of like digital thermal binoculars, or like a digital, or not thermal, digital night optics. They're down to a couple $100, or like a digital scope, digital night scope. Like, what are those called? Sight marks or whatever. The latency on them's not great, and the battery on them's not great. But you can technically see things at night. But you're certainly not going to track anything. It's more like just for long distance recognition of what things are at night. And you need a much more powerful IR than those things have stock. Maybe not for the scopes. Maybe the scopes have good IRs, but the binoculars don't. So if you're not really interested in dropping, those are kind of like the tiers of things that happen. It's the same thing with radios. Like, there's a massive price jump in radios. There's a massive jump in night vision. There's a massive jump in 3D printers, and there's a massive jump in drones. So do we want to talk about drones next, or do we want to talk about 3D printers next? The reason why there's a massive jump in 3D printer prices is because there's not really a sweet spot of price to speed ratio. There's like entry level, and then it's kind of like everything else, and that's it. There's kind of like two modes there. So it's way better, in my opinion, to get an entry level 3D printer and get it set up and figure out how to use it. So at least you can start making yourself some stuff, but you got to figure out which nozzles it can use, which filaments it can use, and you got to plan ahead to what you're going to want to print so you can get the printer of the things that you want to print. You don't need any more than that, but any less than that, and you're going to have a lot of reduced functionality. So, like over Christmas, they were selling entry-level 3D printers for almost nothing. And you can still get open source filaments for those and get a couple of different nozzles and print quite a bit of stuff. Now you're going to have a really small printer plate, but when you're dealing with entry level, that's what you kind of got to get, and you got to like print stuff in smaller batches and smaller pieces and get them together. From that, not the end of the world, but like entry level 3D printer is still like a massive. How do I say this? Force multiplier, because just being like, if you need a little knickknack, you have no idea like how nice it is to just be able to print a little knickknack than like trying to get it on Temu or something and hope they even send you the right thing and knowing that some child labor in China made the little knickknack for you. Like, are you technically putting people out of a job? Like, yeah, kind of. So people are working at the Bamboo, which is the name of the most common printer. You know, it's like, is it child labor working for Bamboo instead of child labor working to make little Temu parts? I don't know. But we got a Bamboo. It was on super sale. It was an ultra low price over Christmas. And that's the other thing. I think I've said this before, but like Christmas, Black Friday through to like Christmas, you know, the Cyber Monday sales and stuff, like a lot of this stuff is like legitimately like half off. Like batteries, half off. Solar, half off. Printers, drones. You can get, if you can save up your money over the year and wait until between laptops, like wait between Black Friday and Christmas, you will be paying half as much. Literally. Waiting for these sales, like even if you need things like pants or socks, you just save up all your money and get it, you know. So we got a 3D printer for like an extra filament and the extra kind of like feeder things for it for like half price. And so just being able to print our own little knickknacks that we need to do stuff is just crazy. Not to mention, you know, other freedom related things you might need or want to print later. But again, if you wait until after the shit hits the fan, you're not going to even be able to activate that stuff with the Chinese servers unless you put in the research ahead of time to figure out how to jailbreak it all. So, lastly is drones. Drones, we're entering a world where drones are going to become increasingly a problem. And you're going to need your own drone to be able to scout what's going on. You don't want to go walk over that hill if you can just send a drone 100 feet in the air and look all around you and come back down. Now the drones have to connect to China servers too to authenticate, and you've got to use a phone with a SIM card, and yeah, it's a lot of really invasive stuff. But unless you're going to buy your own boards and 3D print your own drone parts, and learn how to solder your own wires, you're not really going to conjure up a drone any other way than getting some kind of a China drone that's got to authenticate through like side-loaded Chinese apps. Just trust me. And there's really, I guess, kind of maybe unlike 3D printers, more like radios, there's kind of like ultra cheap drones, which are kind of glorified toys with cameras that you can barely see through. That are, $20 toy drones. Then there's like, the $100-ish. DJI's got some like $100 entry level drones that are like pretty decent. You might get between 10 and 30 minutes of flight time, depending on if you want to spend $100 or 200 or 400 or 1,000 or 2,000. All the way up to $3,000-$4,000 drones that can fly at night with night vision and thermal. So like, if it was up to me, the perfect trifecta is getting like an entry level DJI drone, but making sure that you get the one that is going to work for you, because now there's like 3 different entry level DJI drones, which I think they didn't have to do. I mean, DJI was doing great with their commercial drones. People will gladly fork out thousands of dollars for what is it, a Mavic or a Phantom. Those are absolutely outstanding drones, and so they why would they make a bunch of entry level ones? But they did. They've made the Neo, the Flip. Is it Avasta? I can't remember the name of it. I can't remember the name of them. There's really good YouTube videos about it. But you have to think about, like, do I want it to fly during the day? Do I want it to be able to fly at night? Do I have it night vision? How long do I want it to stay up there? Do I want it to be able to carry something? Do I want a quieter one, or do I not mind if it's like a little bit louder? Do I want it to be able to handle in the wind or not? And you might be able to get a drone, goggles, controller, and extra batteries for like maybe $300 or $400, or maybe you don't want the goggles, and so you pay a little bit less, or maybe you want to hang off on the controller, and so you just use your phone. But always get the extra batteries, and get the extra charger. So like, where am I going with all this? I think that if you spent a couple extra bucks to get a Baofeng with 1,000 channels, I would get the drone next. I would get an entry level drone next, and then I would get an entry level 3D printer after that. Wait until find the one that you want and then bookmark it, so you know if it goes on sale. Then you can just kind of start 3D printing the things that you need. It's like, it is absolutely insanely deceptive how valuable a 3D printer is, because any perishable plastic stuff in your house that you go through a lot of, like little clippy things for potato chip bags, all the way to like if you need like plastic brackets for stuff, little like racks, and you can just 3D print all of it and just keep getting like cheap, decent filament and just start printing everything you need. It's legitimately insane. But if you're more worried about mobs coming down the road, it's better to, or whatever, civil unrest, it's better to have a decent drone and a radio. Choo choo. Bamboo printers are like twice as expensive on Amazon as they are buying directly from Bamboo, and I don't know why. But I will say, Bamboo printers were packaged extremely well, and they only took a few minutes to set up. And I was printing in like no time. You do need kind of a place that's out of the way, so the cats don't play with it, and so your kid doesn't drag it onto their head or something. The reason why I don't like to talk about this stuff a lot is I don't want people to think that I'm like made of money. I think there's this misconception that like YouTubers are made of money or something. The reality is, I'm not sponsored by anybody. We save up and scrimp and scram and live off cans of beans and stuff, and wait all year until stuff's on sale. And then we might do like, some kind of a no interest, easy pay type of thing. So the last thing I'd ever want you all to think is that I know it's so easy to like, oh, what battery is it? And then people immediately look at the battery and they're like, OMG, you're rich. And it's like, nobody that's savvy actually pays those prices. If you reduce that price by about 40% and then chop it up into like 4 no interest payments, it's really, really, really doable. Maybe not with nods. Certainly if somebody sold nods and then had a sale on them and then had like a four-way like low interest, like or no interest, I probably would have a pair of nods by now, but they don't do that because nods are like printing money. But like batteries, like Blue Eddy, like solar panels are still crazy expensive. They've come down a lot, but not enough. But like, you wait till the solar panel's on sale and you do 4 payments of no interest, and boom, you've got yourself a solar panel. Don't look at those prices and be like, oh, he's rich. Oh, he doesn't need money. Oh, he's made it. He's la-di-da. And that is not the case. Like, it takes massive amounts of like saving and like excruciatingly careful money management, and realizing that you're only going to get like 2 or 3 things that you need to prep with like per year. And it's been this way ever since the Rona, because everyone got stimmy checks and it threw the entire economy out of whack, and the economy never improved between video cards and batteries. And now they're selling like whole battery walls with 240 splits, because you've got this 2-class system where you've got people sitting on 3 or 4 houses now that are still working way past retirement, and their houses are paid off, and they've got like four passive incomes plus their main income. These people are making, maybe 300, 400K a year with all of their different incomes combined. And they're able to buy whole battery walls, and they're able to buy a new Tesla, and they're able to buy this stuff. But that's because even though they're still quote unquote like middle class, they have like no bills and 4 passive incomes. For the rest of us, it's going to be an incredibly hard battle. And for a while, YouTubers used to be able to, or if you know another YouTuber getting some kind of like sweetheart sponsorship. But if you're going to say it like it is, you're never going to get any sponsorships. You've got to really learn to suck the corporate cock if you're going to get sponsorships. And the reality is, like, most of these corporate sponsorships just aren't worth it. A lot of them are actively working against us and then have weaponized us against ourselves. And it'd be cool to put some Amazon links up and, you know, get a couple bucks from those if you guys decide to buy a drone or something. But the reality is that with things like Honey, you know, if you guys click my link, if I ever did this, for example, and then you guys use Honey would just steal the revenue from me. And so there was this YouTuber, and somebody used their link. Oh, sorry, the window's kicking up. And someone's chainsawing too, it sounds like. Someone was using somebody's Amazon link. Oh no, it was for the last based book sale. And he's like, thanks to whichever one of you bought like $1,000 optic when you went to check out. He's like, my kickback from that scope. I forgot exactly what he said, but I think it was something to the effect of that scope made as much as like the entire book sale for him or something, just in that Amazon kickback affiliate link thing that it does. I wanted to do that Amazon affiliate link for a long time, but Amazon can be real douchebags about who they give those Amazon affiliate links to. So I guess kind of the question is, you know, now that the cat's out of the bag, that I've got a drone and a 3D printer and a bunch of different radios, you know, I want you all to understand, like, we've saved and scrimped and scrammed for like years to get this stuff on really deep discounts or no interest payments and stuff. So all that being said, if you want me to talk about drone stuff more, if you want me to talk about 3D printer stuff more, let me know. But what I would say is, if you get a radio with 1,000 channels, that's easy to program. Next, I would get an entry-level drone, and then thirdly, I would get an entry-level 3D printer. But again, that's provided you already have a modern rifle and modern pistol for everybody that you expect to be your mutual aid for you, and that you have medical and training. And notice I didn't mention armor. Like, armor is like super specific. It's not bad, it's just specific. And again, there's really, really affordable approved armor out there. But I would also say, like, another thing that is a little steep, but still what I would call that entry level price, which is around $150, is you need a really good pair of binoculars. Because if there's somebody 100 yards away, you know, you're going to need to see what they're toting around with them. You need to see if they're pointing at you, or if they're itching their butt, or if they're walking around with a shovel, or if they're walking around with a rifle. For all the times I've been out here, I can't tell you how many times I've grabbed my binoculars. Insanely useful. So if you don't have a good pair of binoculars, I should throw a link down there too. I really want to put together like a little, I don't know how to do it, but put together like an Amazon store, if they even still like allow that, and show you guys kind of the gear the gear that I talk about. You still need training, and you still need, to be doing your cardio and stuff. But if you hear something over that hill, it's way easier to send a drone over there. If you need a little widget, it's way easier to 3D print something, try to order it off Temu and hope it even gets to you and hope you don't get scammed somehow. It's way faster than building something with resin. Too. Although, having resin and resin molds is also a really good idea. You can make a lot of stuff with that too. So, I guess that's it for this one. I don't know. I know this one's all over the place, but I want to, like I was saying earlier, the politics has ran its course. I think we're in a holding pattern. I think all the federal stuff has ran its course. I think they're stuck in the mud now. I think there's going to be a slow burn of reductions in force and reorgs. It's going to be chill, and I think protests are just going to absolutely go through the roof. So it's time to get back to prepping. So I know you don't have a lot of money, but that doesn't stop you from making lists. Stop going out to eat if you haven't. Stop going out to coffee if you haven't. And start to wish listing the things that you think you need. Because, if you hear a bunch of people shooting, it's way easier to just pop a drone up. If you need to talk to your neighbor and the cell network's down, like they're working on fiber, that means it's probably going to knock out all the communications again. The radios don't go down, short of some kind of like massive EMP interference. But even then, you'll still should be able to network your neighbor with a radio. Or if you want to get on digital to have clearer comms. Oh, the horse is rolling around in the mud again. But people go, oh, the repeaters will be down. A lot of these repeaters have solar and battery backups. As long as people don't completely as long as the people don't bleed the towers dry, these towers should be up. A lot of these towers will still be up. They have some of them have double and triple redundancy because they're also for backup emergency communications. So thanks for bearing with me. I know this episode is going to be a chopped up mess, but I'm gonna do my best. So y'all take care now, and don't give up, and tell everybody you love how you feel, and treat each day like it's the last day, I guess, because you never know. With that comforting thought, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.
I've been sitting here thinking about my life, trying to justify it all, preparing for the next strife. Another car goes by, trying hard as I sigh, knowing we can't go back, facing a future of lies. It'd be a waste even if we could, because status quo feels just too good. People soon simply cannot know how good we had it, except on old TV shows. The lives we've left behind, surrounded by survivors' guilt, life dying on the vine, while everything but faith wilts. What else can we do but move forward and trust what God set in motion. Surround ourselves with good people in this vast dark ocean. Tell the people that you love how you feel every day. Each day we get closer to not being able to say how we really feel, and hold the ones we love close. Don't surround yourself by those you hate, but the ones you